And here it is, the 2011 LTD Snakebyte James Hetfield signature. It has been introduced way back in 2011, so most of James Hetfield fans know about this guitar. If you're new to this and you want to know more about the Snakebyte, check out my other videos about the black and white ESP Snakebyte. What I'm gonna do today is go over the specs of the LTD Snakebyte and tell you the differences between the ESP versions and the budget version, the LTD, which is hardly a budget version, but I'm gonna tell you more about this. Let's start with those specs, shall we? First of all, we have 4-piece mahogany body, 3-piece mahogany neck, gorgeous ebony fingerboard with 14-inch radius. Then we got 22 extra jumbo frets. And for this particular guitar, the early 2011 model, the Spurzel locking tuners. For the following years, those were replaced with LTD locking tuners. Please check out the white Snakebyte video to figure out the 2011 models. Let's move on with the Tone Pro locking bridge and tailpiece. Control scheme is neck volume, bridge volume and a 3-way switch. And one more thing that is specific to the early 2011 models are the pickups. This guitar didn't come originally with the headset, it came with the classic for James Hetfield combination of 8160 EMG pickups, so those have been replaced. That is the EMG headset that is typical for the guitars after 2011. Only some early 2011 models came with the 8160 combination. Now, let's get down to business, justifying why should you choose the LTD Snakebyte and why should you buy the ESP. Regardless which one, the black, the white, the satin, camo, whatever. As you probably already seen, there is a huge gap in the price of the LTD and the ESP. And we're not just talking about a few $100 here. There is no way of sugarcoating this, so I'm gonna straight up say it. For the price of the ESP, you can almost buy 4 LTD Snakebytes. Some of you are probably already thinking, you must be a madman to pay that much for a guitar that looks almost the same. But hear me out and decide for yourself, because those guitars are not the same. Starting with the main difference, the ESP has a 1-piece solid mahogany body, the LTD has a 4-piece mahogany body. The ESP has a 1-piece mahogany neck, the LTD has 3-piece mahogany neck. The fingerboard of the newer LTD models is Macassar ebony, the ESP is ebony, higher grade. The radius of the ESP is 12-inch, the radius of the LTD is 14-inch. Not a huge difference here. Then you have a bone nut, composite nut in the LTD. Other than that, there are some small differences that are hard to point out in a YouTube video, but you just can't argue with the fact that the ESP is made in Japan, the LTD is made in Korea, the ESP is made with higher grade woods, 1-piece mahogany body and neck, and you have a different guitar altogether. Of course, they share the same design, most of the hardware is the same. Only when you put both of them together side by side, you start seeing small differences. There's a slight difference in the comfort cutaways here on the top, the slope of the comfort cutaway for the forearm, and a couple of more slight variations here and there. Those shouldn't matter too much because even the black and white Snakebyte ESP have some differences between each other. Here's a big one though. Look at the set neck construction of the ESP, the way the heel connects to the body. Looks and feels like your typical Gibson set neck construction. The LTD has this, what they call set through neck construction, which is more flush to the body and gives you a better high fret access. This is not a quality difference, it's just a matter of personal preference. Another difference here in the back is that the LTD doesn't have the battery tray. Let me show you what I'm talking about by grabbing the ESP. It's this metal tray that contains the 9-volt battery and gives you an easier access. Like this, you don't have to unscrew any screws, you just open and replace. Those are some of the differences. Just to sum them up, 1-piece body, 1-piece neck, different neck construction, a bit thinner here on the headstock, different comfort cutaways. Overall, the ESP is made in the custom shop Japan, so it has more attention to detail. Knowing the differences, I'm gonna try to explain why should you buy the ESP and why should you go with the LTD. Let's assume that you are new to guitar playing and this is gonna be your first or at least first serious guitar. The chances are that you're not gonna be able to tell the difference between the ESP and the already great LTD version, and I'm saying this, the LTD is a good enough guitar. It is still a James Hetfield signature guitar, feels good, plays good, it's an amazing guitar. If money is no issue, by all means go ESP. It is what James is using on stage, he's rarely using LTD versions of his guitars. If you don't care about this fact and you're a novice, you're not gonna be able to tell the difference between the ESP and LTD anyway, so you can safely go with the Korean made LTD. The second scenario is the gigging musician, and yes, there are some of them left. You guys know who you are, you know the scene, you know the venues. If you're playing in smaller venues where the backstage barely fits 2 people and a guitar, people are regularly coming in, tripping over the case, stepping all over it, tossing it around, then don't buy the ESP. If you have the money and don't care about it, I get it. But the better option would be the LTD, because it wouldn't hurt that much if you break it, gets stolen or something else. I mean, it would still hurt, but not as much as a $5,000 guitar. You'll still have a great and reliable guitar with the LTD, and you're gonna be able to enjoy a beer or 2 after the gig without worrying about your expensive ESP guitar in the back. The third scenario involves a lot of people called the bedroom warriors, like myself, that are playing at home alone through a tube amp or whatever, with a backing track, not in a mix through a crappy PA system in a club. If you have the money, go ESP. You'll be able to appreciate the playability and the sound as well. Made by hand, with a lot of attention to detail in the custom shop Japan, you will have the absolute best. In your situation, I would look for a good deal on a used guitar though. This brings me to the fourth scenario and why you should definitely buy the ESP. If you're a collector or an investor like some of us are, you want to be buying guitars that are gonna retain or even increase in value over time. You don't want to be losing money on guitars like this, because we're not talking about peanuts here. There are some huge differences, and sometimes it's better to buy them new if they are limited run, because they will only get more and more expensive over time. Your best option is to get it used in mint condition with the certificate and all, but you have to be looking for a long time. It's part of the collector's game, and it's what makes it interesting. This is what makes an ESP so expensive. It's not 4 times better than the LTD, it's not gonna make you a better guitarist. You have to be at least a bit advanced to be able to appreciate it. If you're gonna be playing it to a cheap amp setup at home, you're not gonna be able to appreciate it and feel the difference with the LTD. And you're gonna be paying a lot of money for it. For a collector, investor, it's really a no-brainer. You get the ESP, that's the guitar for you. Whenever you decide to part with this guitar, to sell it, you're gonna get your money back and then some. Of course, you have to hold on to it, keep it in mint condition, and wait for the right time to sell. Usually when they are no longer available at the retail market. After all I said, let's try to sum it all up. If you are a kid, if you are new to this, if you are on a budget, this is hardly a budget guitar, but it is compared to the ESP, get the LTD. If you're a gigging musician, lucky you, you're playing in small venues and are afraid that your guitar might get stolen or broken, get the LTD. If you're playing at home through a good setup, money is no issue, you like to have the absolute best stuff, by all means, buy the ESP. If you don't want to spend that much, buy the LTD, it's already a great guitar. If you're a collector or an investor, you like guitars that retain value or get even more expensive over time, relatively rare, it's a no-brainer. You have to get the ESP versions, the absolute best, made in the custom shop, the ESP black or white or whatever, get them. You already know the differences? It's time to decide for yourself. I'm gonna continue with this 2011 LTD Snakebyte and what makes it so special. You see, 2011 is the first production year of both LTD and ESP Snakebyte. Before I go into further detail about the production year, I wanted to give you a closer look of the body and the 4 lines that are separating the mahogany pieces. You can clearly see the first line directly under the neck volume and above the 3-way selector switch. The second line is slightly between the 5th and 6th string, and the third line is on the upper horn, making this a 4-piece mahogany body that is glued together. There are different opinions out there. Some people believe that the glue adds to the sustain, but I personally felt that the ESP version resonated much better acoustically. Something that is not gonna be obvious with EMG pickups through a high gain amp. Speaking of pickups, only the early 2011 models ESP and LTD Snakebyte came with the EMG 8160 set. This guitar also came with them, but they had been replaced in 2018 with the EMG James Hetfield set. If you wanna know more about the EMG James Hetfield set, check out my white ESP Snakebyte video. The 12-fret Snakebyte inlay shows another difference between the LTD and ESP versions. The snake on the LTD is blind, and I'm gonna show you exactly what I mean later on in the video when I compare the two. Of course, the LTD features the same headstock designed by James Hetfield himself, resembling the snake head. It has the LTD metal logo and some minor differences with the ESP regarding the trussrod cover plate and the nut. The LTD features this set-through neck construction, and you can see over the years the neck had moved slightly and cracked the polyurethane finish. You can clearly see the lines separating the mahogany body here in the shot of the back. Plastic cover for the battery compartment and plastic cover for the electronics compartment. The Spurzl locking tuners are not typical for the LTD Snakebyte, only early 2011 models feature them. Later on, LTD switched to LTD branded locking tuners. You might consider it a downgrade, but you can always swap those out. You can always swap out the pickups as well. They're on a quick connect system, and the James Hetfield set is available in a couple of finishes. Before I continue with the in-depth review of the guitar, I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine who gave me this 2011 LTD. He bought this guitar back in 2011 and has been loving and playing it ever since. He also helped me with a lot of information regarding the pickups, that the original set was the 8160 EMG, that the guitar came without a case, and the original pickups were the Spurzl locking. That is a very specific information regarding the early 2011 models, and it was extremely useful to get it from the first and only owner of this guitar. He is a very charismatic guitar player and has a lot of Metallica covers in his YouTube channel, so make sure you check him out. He came by the shop to check out the LTD guitars and ended up buying the EC1000 Fluence that I've reviewed a couple of months ago. He as well has concluded that the Fishman Fluence pickups are different enough from the headset that it's worth having a guitar with them. But I'm not gonna discuss this too much with you. There's a video of me comparing the EMG headset with the Fishman Fluence pickups, check it out. Anyway, the LTD Snakebyte has been around for over 10 years now, and it's still relevant with the new Snakebyte Camo model. I would love to eventually check out the difference between the LTD and ESP Camo, some notable differences that you can see on the pictures here. Here it is on my workbench, and as before I'm gonna try to combine the videos telling you the differences between the ESP Snakebyte and the LTD Snakebyte as I go along. I'm gonna briefly show you the specs on screen and go over them. First of all, we have 4-piece mahogany body. I have already showed you the lines separating the body on the close-up video. You can see one directly under the neck volume and above the 3-way switch, and there's another between the 5th and the 6th string over here, and one on the horn, making it a 4-piece glued mahogany body opposed to the single-piece solid mahogany in the ESP. Then we have a 3-piece mahogany neck on the LTD with a set-through neck construction, 1-piece mahogany set neck in the ESP, ebony fingerboard, 22 extra jumbo frets, 14-inch radius of the LTD opposed to 12-inch in the ESP. I wouldn't call it a noticeable difference though. Spurzl locking tuners for the early 2011 models, same as the ESP version. Later on they switched to LTD locking. The LTD features the same Tone Pro locking bridge and tailpiece as the ESP. Both guitars share the same control scheme. You got the neck volume, then you got the bridge volume and the 3-way switch. EMG pickups on a quick connect system. For this guitar they had been replaced in 2018 with the EMG James Hetfield set. Originally the early 2011 models come with the 8160 EMG combination as with the ESP. I'm gonna show you the cavities of the LTD with the pickups out of the way, and then I'm gonna talk you to the difference with the ESP. Starting with the quick connect plugs for the pickups. The quick connect system in the early 2011 models is only on the front, the back is soldered on. Then we have the cavity itself with the shielding paint. But before I talk you through the difference with the set neck construction, I want to show you something. I think because this was one of the first models back in 2011, someone didn't learn how to properly mask them when applying the finish and sprayed some of the finish here and as well as here on the fingerboard. Anyway, that's for the neck cavity, and the situation with the bridge cavity is almost exactly the same. shooting paint quick connect plug. Let's discuss the difference between the LTD and the ESP. Check out the set through neck construction and the wall of the neck pickup. It's visible where the neck connects to the body. Now look at the way the set neck connects to the body of the ESP. This might be good for the LTD though, because it might mean that it has a longer neck tenon. Another difference to the ESP is that I don't see a hole for the ground wire connector that the ESP used to have. Mine is removed here in the picture, but the LTD comes without the ground wires screwed on the body. Another difference is the routing for the EMG quick connect system. In the ESP is lower on the ring of the pickup, when with the LTD it's more to the middle, like this. Not that it matters that much, but I just wanted to point out the differences in the routing. Regarding the pickups, I've already explained the situation with the EMG James Hetfield set, when it was first introduced, when they started putting them in the ESP guitars. The early 2011 models originally came with the EMG 6081 set, meaning that the pickups in this particular LTD were replaced, and it shows when you take the pickup out and see the date EMG James Hetfield neck, made in USA in 2018. Same goes for the bridge pickup, because they are a set. Yep, 2018. James Hetfield signature, made in USA in the black chrome finish. This is what the pickup looks like installed on the quick connect system. Something else interesting I wanted to show you, the 2018 sticker of the EMG James Hetfield set, and this is what it used to look like back in 2011. At some point in time, EMG started using the newer sticker. Another noticeable difference is those 4 screws. Some people asked me what are they for, and you can see that they are much more exposed with the older model. With the new one, they've covered them. I'm assuming that EMG doesn't want people messing around with those screws, so don't touch them. You see, they have been encapsulated in the newer model. Basically, EMG are telling you don't mess with those unless you know what exactly you're doing. And this is what the black chrome finish looks like. Even though they're not the original set, let's measure them anyway. The bridge pickup measures at 16.54K, the neck pickup measures at 15.57K, and the middle position is 8. A closer look at the black metal knobs. They are one of the fastest that I have ever tried. They are easy to install and remove via this Allen wrench, and I think are a perfect fit for this guitar. 3-way switch. Black flat slanted pickup rings for the pickups, short screws for the front, long screws for the back. Don't mess those up. I know that it may seem obvious for most of you why those need to be flat and slanted, but I'm gonna explain for the rest of you. To better demonstrate my point, I'm gonna use the white Snakebyte because it's easier to see. And this is due to the way some electric guitars are constructed. The neck doesn't connect straight to the body, it comes at an angle. This allows you to adjust the pickup height, the string height, without having a high action on the fingerboard. The way this works is, the pickup rings are slanted, so they're compensating for the angle that the body has relative to the neck. And the whole idea is that the pickup should be straight in relation to the strings. And this is why we have a low pickup ring in the front and high in the back. It's to compensate the angle of the body and to keep the pickups at an optimal distance and angle relative to the strings. The pickup rings are flat and not curved because the snake body is flat, not like a Les Paul that has a curved top. The bridge is the same like in the ESP version, Tone Pro locking that locks with Allen wrench. Metric, thumb wheel and screwdriver adjustable, and be sure to lock it when you put it in place so you don't lose your setup, and unlock it when you're adjusting the string high so you don't damage the struts. The tailpiece is also black, Tone Pro and locking, looks like this, and it locks through those 1.5mm Allen wrench bolts. One of the bigger differences between the ESP and LTD version is that with the LTD we have a 3-piece mahogany neck. Also, the radius of the LTD is 14-inch opposed to the 12-inch radius of the ESP. Other than that, the newer models have the Macassar ebony fingerboard, where the ESP has ebony. Higher grade of course, and darker. Both guitars have 22 extra jumbo frets. As for the dot inlays, I don't think that's mother of pearl, looks like plastic to me, and it probably is. Arriving at the 12th fret and the signature snake that gives the name of the guitar, Snakebyte, I promised you guys to show you the difference between the ESP and LTD versions. The LTD doesn't have an eye. This is the easiest way to distinguish between the two guitars if you only have a picture of the 12th fret. Look at the ESP and the snake on it. It has an eye. Let me show you the white one as well. Also has an eye, and it's mother of pearl. Another difference is that the LTD has a composite nut, where the ESP has a bone nut. The nut on this particular guitar measures at 42 mm, but if you check out the video of the Snakebyte ESP, it was 42.8. So if I grab it just below the nut, it is 42.8 or 1.68 inch, meaning that this nut has been replaced at some point. And I can feel the slight gaps between the nut and the neck. And what do you know, another difference at the 12th fret, 53.4 mm or 2.10 inches with the LTD, 52.4 or 2.06 inches. Back to normal at the 1st fret, 20 mm or 0.78 on both guitars. 12th fret is 22 mm or 0.86 on both guitars. The LTD features 350 mm or 14 inch radius, but I don't feel a big difference between that and the 12 inch. The LTD features a thin U neck profile, feels similar to the ESP. No overhang on the fret edges, the edge of the fingerboard has been finished with the same polyurethane finish that the body has, molded nut has been replaced, and the cavity for the truss rod, adjustable with a 4 mm Allen wrench and a single screw for the cover. This is what the plastic cover of the truss rod looks like. Has this matte finish to it, James Hetfield signature on it, and white at the back. And this is what it looks like on the ESP guitar. It has this glossy finish, slightly bigger, and I want to show you guys something that it's really important. You might argue that it's a small difference, but this is what makes custom shop guitars so special. Just look at how the truss rod cover fits against the nut. It has been cut straight, but it comes at an angle towards the nut. This is the cover of the ESP. Look at the way it has been cut at an angle, so when you press it against the nut, it's a perfect fit. You might think that this is not a huge difference and not a big deal, but it is the absolute attention to detail, to the smallest detail. Besides the obvious difference in the set neck construction between the two guitars, I wanted to show you the side dot inlays. They slightly differ between the LTD and ESP. And the volutes on the headstock, you can see it's slightly slimmer on the ESP and bulkier on the LTD. Your eyes are not deceiving you, the headstock on the ESP is slightly thinner than the LTD. To be absolutely nitpicky, I'm gonna measure it. The LTD measures at 15.5 millimeters. The black ESP measures at 13.5 millimeters, but the white one measures at 14.6. So different workers, different thickness, I guess. Here's another angle of the two guitars side by side. Look at them until I take a bathroom break. The headstock of the Snakebyte is designed by the man himself, James Hetfield. It features this metal LTD logo. And be careful with that one, it pops up easily and it can catch on a string or the cleaning cloth and break. I have already explained the Spurzel locking tuners. They're not typical for the LTD guitar, only on 2011 models. We are at the back and I can clearly see the lines that I was looking for. Here is one near the bridge. The other one is down here near the volume pots, and there's one more up here on the horn. Right here you can see it, which makes this a 4-piece mahogany guitar body. And I cannot stress but enough that this is a huge difference. You no longer have the same guitar. I'm gonna show you the back of the ESP Snakebyte. You can see, or you cannot see, any lines connecting the different pieces of the mahogany. This is one piece mahogany body or a solid body, and a big piece of mahogany like this is expensive. And in essence, that's what makes a guitar a guitar. The body, the wood, the way it resonates. You can argue that this is a metal guitar with EMG pickups and it doesn't matter, but trust me, it does. The single piece Snakebite body opposed to the 4-piece in the LTD resonates so much better, giving it a totally different feel. The electronics cavity is a bit of a mess because whoever installed the pickups in this left a tone pot hanging out that it's not needed for this situation, because the Snakebite has 2 volume pots, doesn't need a tone pot, and this one is a long shaft as well, so I'm gonna be removing those. I'm gonna show you around anyway. This is the routing for the 9-volt battery. Here you can see the routing for the pickups. The cavity is painted with a shooting paint, routing for the output jack. You can tell that this is not the original electronic for this guitar because the 2011, early 2011 models used to have the solder-on electronics, not the quick connect like this James Hetfield set has. I've removed the 9-volt battery in order to show you what the cavity looks like and the holder that it's keeping it in place, and the terminals for the battery itself. What puzzles me is why is this holder pre-cut with 4 holes? Let me know in the comments section if you know another way to mount this holder, guys, and why is it cut like this. This is what the battery looks like in the compartment, and a good idea to write the date on it to keep track. And this is the plastic cover that it's shielded on the back. 2 screws for the cover with a flat tip. You can see that I've removed the unnecessary tone pot and I've stuck the control module of the EMG pickups here to the body. Now it's much more neater, it's not gonna rattle inside, it's not gonna disconnect any wires. Before closing the electronics compartment, I wanted to show you the cover, shielding on the back side of it, and black plastic. Output jack features this rectangular metal plate, original strap button that the finish has been worn from extensive use with the strap, also worn finish. You've seen it already, but I'm gonna show you in greater detail. This is the set neck construction of the ESP. Now look at the one on the LTD. It's a set true neck construction and it flushes against the body, giving you a better high fret access. Some people might actually prefer this type of connection to the body. This crack that you're seeing is not something unusual. It's because the wood moves and the polyurethane finish doesn't. It cracks due to the movement of the wood. The LTD features a 3-piece mahogany neck with a comfortable volute near the headstock. Then you have the ESP logo in white and Spurzel locking tuners. I've already talked about these. This stupid regulation number 427 doesn't have a place on the headstock. The guitar was made in Korea back in 2011. One more slight difference that I wanted to show you. The comfort cutaways on the LTD, here on the top and here near the bottom horn, are slightly different. I'm gonna show you the ESP in a second. The slope here is slightly different as well. Now look at the ESP comfort cutaways. The rough shape of the Snakebite body is made by a CNC machine, but those comfort cutaways are sanded down by hand by the skilled workers at the custom shop in Japan. So there's bound to be some difference. The LTD Snakebite weighs 3,636 grams or 8 pounds roughly, while the ESP weighs 3,341 or 7.3 pounds. Let's hear what they sound like. As you have probably heard, or you didn't hear, there's no huge difference between the two guitars. The main differences are in the playability, the way it feels in your hands, the way it sounds in the room, and of course the value that it retains over time. After having the chance to play those two guitars side by side, I can tell you that the LTD Snakebyte is an amazing guitar, and I would recommend it to everybody who's a new guitarist, who doesn't need an expensive instrument, who's a gigging musician. I personally would always prefer the ESP and buy it if I have the chance. Although I must point out a couple of things regarding the current market situation. The prices of the guitars have skyrocketed. The new ESP Snakebyte Camo has a ridiculous price tag that I wouldn't pay, and by the looks of it, it's only gonna get worse. Luckily for us, there's always the used market option, and that's part of the beauty of being a collector. You're always scouting for that perfect guitar in mint condition. that rare unicorn that you find after years and years of searching, and you're finally able to add it to your collection. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something new. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. See you soon.